Hi, everybody. My name's Riley Peake, and I'm the team lead for Learn ArcGIS here at Esri. I'm here today to talk about how we as GIS professionals can help to build the next generation of solution seekers, students, and also teachers as well. So just a little bit about myself. I come from a small town in Brandon, Manitoba, Canada, the Wheat City. And not far from there, a little fun fact for you is Winnipeg, Manitoba, which for 19 years and for the 19th year in a row is the Slurpee capital of the world. I did my degree in geography and GIS in Vancouver at Simon Fraser University. And then in 2009, I joined Esri and Esri Press specifically, and then the Learn ArcGIS team in 2015. So at Learn ArcGIS, our role really at Esri is to promote learning by doing. So how do we get the software and the kinds of scenarios and problems that can be addressed with ArcGIS into the hands of our users? So that could be brand new users or a 30-year GIS professional who wants to try something new, maybe ArcGIS Pro or one of the other apps that we've released. Learn ArcGIS works with subject matter experts, both internal to Esri as well as outside the company to develop hands-on activities for a wide range of audiences. We develop and deliver our materials, hopefully with as real world and authentic scenarios and data, providing data as well as important to get our users excited and motivated about what can be done and how to do more. My background is in GIS and geography, as I mentioned, but I do get to work and learn from and collaborate with a lot of educators from around the world to create lessons and activities specifically for educators. So today, what I'd like to do is just share with you a little bit about what I've learned from these teachers and talk about what it's like for teachers in education, which I can imagine, I think we can all imagine is a very challenging space right now, and also talk about what tools and resources there are out there for your community and your teachers, and how you can be successful at making your local teachers successful in many different ways. And I don't think we expect everybody to become a GIS expert. It's just the idea that GIS is more accessible now and can be used in the classroom in a lot of different ways. So just two observations, primary observations on my part after speaking to and meeting with all of this wonderful network of educators, is that the first is that students are actually very rarely the barrier to the adoption of the tools. They have no fear when it comes to software, and they will jump in and they will blow your mind as to what they can do. I've had teachers who tell us that some students start using Pro before ArcGIS Online. I've had teachers tell me they got a project back from a student that was using drone to map and they had not even taught that. So this is something that we know for students. They come from a generation now where they know how software should work, and they aren't afraid to go in and test it out. But our goal, of course, is to get to the students is going to be through the teachers. And that brings me to my second observation, which is, really teachers need to be able to trust the system. And I've noticed that, teachers really do trust other teachers more than anyone when it comes to, actually what it's like to be in a classroom, create materials, think pedagogically, and so our goal, really, my goal, is really to elevate the voices and experiences of our educators from around the world. The big sort of teacher advocates that we all know, down to the person who is really just, trying to get it into their classroom, a teacher who's kind of off on their own. That we want to try and find those teachers and really make sure that we're supporting them and elevating their voices. And as I said, kind of across the whole journey into GIS, from a complete non-user to a GIS teaching advocate, we want to connect with everybody and learn from them as far as what are we doing right and what do we need to be doing better. So let's just start by talking about, so what is it like for teachers right now? And I think for most of us, and maybe you had this experience, it's not really difficult to get teachers or people excited about what GIS can do. We can talk about the stories, we can talk about the problems, we can kind of share what GIS is. Um, but really what's happening with teachers right now. So if we go through it, it's really about, a lot of times feeling like another rock in the cart. We think we're giving them the wheel. For them, it's just adding more weight onto what they do. Many have rigid and well-defined curricula. They have a lot of tech options and everybody is claiming to be the next best thing. They have too few resources to be able to do it with. They have minimal time in order to learn new tools. They also have a perceived expectation on the level of expertise that you need to have. And I think this is really where, teachers want to feel a confidence to be able to answer questions. And that can be a challenging thing for some teachers is to be able to step back from that a little bit and have it be more of a collaborative approach with their students. I have one student in Portland, Oregon, or one teacher in Portland, Oregon. She makes the students ask three other classmates before they can actually ask the teacher for how to do something. There's the old model of GIS perpetuates these barriers 100%. Desktop GIS was very difficult to get into the classroom for obvious reasons. And I think the what's happened with ArcGIS Online and things moving to the cloud is that we now have a new model for GIS that is 100% breaking down these barriers. And this is what we want to try and get to today: is how do we introduce those tools to educators who are ready to receive them? So let's again just try and talking about who are you trying to help as a GIS professional, and I would encourage you to maybe think of it in two categories as of approaches. So one would be teaching with GIS, and that's going to be the cohort that I'm going to be talking about mostly today. But they are typically motivated to they're motivated to enrich their classroom. They're open to ideas, but they also want those ideas to be very clear about what the value is pretty quickly. They have little to no GIS experience and no familiarity or loyalty to Esri or nor ArcGIS. Nor should they have to, because I think this allows us, again, if you can see from my graph here, this opens us up to a much broader audience. There's a much broader net, but it has got to be seamless. And that's what we're trying to do is meet more of that audience, because in the past we've actually focused quite a bit more on the teaching about GIS cohort, which is a wonderful goal for teachers to reach. And I think there's some amazing programs in the US right now. The geospatial semester in Virginia is one example of a amazing dual enrollment program for high school students. um, but that crowd is really starting to want to teach the concepts, dig into the analysis. They're starting to build more curiosity. If you're coming from the teaching with the crowd, you're starting to now think about, what, I really do want to start making my own story maps. I want to maybe start finding data of my own. I want to start to add my students and make their own story maps. That kind of person is now going to be moving into that teaching about GIS, and we do see that there's a journey from teaching with from no experience and building confidence, building knowledge, building skills. Some teachers may stay in that space for an extended period of time, but hopefully we can get them to that teaching with GIS. How do we reach the Teach with GIS crowd? So really what we need to do is build in a sequenced pathways for teachers and students to follow that is a guided by pedagogy and not by the technology. So this space today is, again, primarily what I'm going to be talking about is just there's very little barriers to accessing the software. A lot of what we've created are pre-made, um, ready-made to just take into the classroom, plug them into an existing curriculum without a lot of disruption and with clear instructions on how to use it. Moving them up into building maybe more skills in GIS, exploring ArcGIS Online, or thinking about how Survey 123 or ArcGIS Scene could probably be brought in. And then getting up into some of the other apps that we can get to, and actually, hopefully, we can get them to a place where they request their own organization. And that's where really our goal is to get them to there, and then they continue up that journey. So how does an educator access the software? First and foremost, I would encourage new teachers to use and become comfortable with all of the free materials that we have in the Teach with GIS site, which I'm about to show you. And then when they're ready, if they're not ready to actually request their own membership, their own school organization, have them sign up with the LearnArcGIS organization for 60 days. It's just a sandbox to play around in, and that's a great place for people to start. But that's an account for, again, for just playing around, trying the tools, building your skills, and getting comfortable. The goal being that you request your own teachers would request their own organization and for their classroom. How do students gain access to the software? This would be through that schools bundle. So, some of the free trials and things that we have, those aren't meant for students. And so, what we ultimately want to do is get the teacher confident, building their own skills, requesting an organization, their own organization for their school, which is free, by the way, for all K through 12 schools around the world. Requesting their own organization, and then starting to add their students and get their students working within the organization. So, what resources are available to you? Learn ArcGIS is really where I think you can start to find a lot of these materials. For some of you who are familiar with the site, this is actually a new look, a new experience. We wanted to try and customize how people approach the site so they feel like they can get to content pretty quickly without having to search through a giant catalog. So as you can see, we do have one of our personas here is a teacher. This is our K through 12 persona. And each of those personas have their own curated set of content, but this is a unique experience for our K-12 teachers. And again, fitting into that column of teaching with GIS, no experience, very little logging in required on this entire page. And this is how we want to introduce this, is why teach GIS. And what we're doing for this is actually sharing the stories of real teachers. Jennifer Vadnais is a teacher from Redlands Unified School District who started out with no GIS experience. She was an instructional coach and then went through the journey of actually becoming a certified in GIS. And then now she's teaching it in Redlands classrooms. Next, we also want to include some free teaching tools. These are the ready-made apps I was talking about, and these would be, for example, something that a teacher could take and just plug straight into the classroom. So this activity uses the Water Balance app from the Living Atlas to examine 20 years of change. The Water Balance app is from the Living Atlas. For students, this can be used for explaining patterns in both spatial data and quantitative data, and look at monthly variations in precipitation, soil moisture, and soil pack. And the application allows you to pick a point anywhere on the map, and it walks the teacher through how to use this, the steps that are required in order to make this work. But how can you then look at this data and have a student understand, changes in the water balance? So again, there's no sign-in required. The teacher does not have to do a lot of work to plug this in. Skills and knowledge. Now we can start to build out actually skills in using ArcGIS. And one thing you'll notice here is all of these collections here, maps and data in ArcGIS Online, 3D in ArcGIS Online, data collection using Survey 123, and story maps have associated Microsoft badges to go along with them. So they can go to Microsoft, they can try these activities. There's no login required, and start to earn these skills and feel more confident in what they're doing. And then also we want to provide these lesson ideas. An activity on exploring tectonic hazards that gets into, let me see if I've got it available here. Exploring tectonic hazards. This actually uses the new map viewer as well. And this will take teachers through exploring real-time earthquakes, volcanoes, and plate boundaries, which the new ArcGIS Online map viewer has a live link now to the USGS earthquake hazards. We also have materials that we've co-designed with National Geographic. Again, these are delivered as story maps, and there are mapping activities that are ready-made for teachers to use. And then we have a community space as well, where we want to be reaching out and if, hearing about what's happening out there, projects that students are doing, events that teachers are running. We want to help to bring more focus on the community and build this out. So what's next for us? Q1 2021 is the next companion site, which I just talked about teaching with GIS. We want to now take it to the next phase, teaching about, including materials and creating that complete journey for our teachers. Community engagement in the ArcGIS Hub as well. We want to build out a community of educators in there, start to leverage and flex the functionality of the hub to actually start having teachers sharing data and story maps and lesson ideas. We have global initiatives to work with National Geographic education team to help them deliver game-changing tools to 1 million teachers by 2025 and 100 million students by 2030. And we also want to support AAG and GeoMentors as well. So, becoming a GeoMentor is one way to connect with teachers in your area who want to have a GeoMentor come into the room and help them with some of the things that we've talked about here today. And really now it's about getting feedback from you. So my email is here, and I want to hear about your experiences with the site and with your teachers. And so please feel free to reach out to us. Let us know how things are going, and I very much look forward to working with everybody to help to support the next generation of solution seekers for the planet. Thank you so much.